You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana, Coke boys, ooh, we run the city, homie tryna keep up, ooh, they going broke, I'll finish your career, ooh, get a rope,
Warning, 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 warning.
Dope money, ooh,
That Montega,
in the spot, getting guap, ooh,
that's hard labor.
in the club, popping bottles,
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
handful of real niggas,
Rest of these niggas cowards.
how you want it,
How you want it?
hands gun or the knife,
Soon as your man see the barrel,
he gon' run for his life,
bullets flying.
bullets flying. Oh man.
Hello, YouTube. We're just waiting for
Hey.
Billy to come in, and I also sent out some links to some other people.
Yeah.
But where are my encounters? This is a Bleeding Edge. There we go. Come in, and I also sent out some links to some.
In my defense,
Today we're going
Yeah.
to what?
in my defense, Tico, you didn't pick up the phone, so the Wago's already eaten.
Today we're going to what?
In my defense, Tico, you didn't pick up the phone, so
What are you talking about, Wind? Oh, were you gonna share meal with him? Yeah, Wind. Apparently, Wind had some really nice food today.
oh yeah.
Is that right, Wind?
You gotta treat yourself like milk, and you gotta spoil yourself every once in a while. Spoil yourself, and sometimes your family, your friends and family can join in, and you get to spoil them too. Oh. So what are the topics today? We're topic up.
The topics are reputation, and then how people in the manosphere, reputation of people in the manosphere, and how people normally go like missing for long periods of time, and you never hear back from them, or they go off, they like come and go,
Right.
Like it's like, is it?
Like
Are
the
they?
wind.
Are they just arbitrary, or is that the new form of sovereignty, or is if men, like as men being like leaders in the manosphere, if that's what we are, or if we're followers? What is
The thing-
yeah, go ahead. I'm just
The thing-
just talking pro.
Yeah. The thing is, let's start with reputation around the manosphere. I mean, my reputation is synonymous that you're not going to tell me where the heck I'm going to go. Or, I mean, and only a select few people that I respect.
Hold on one second. Yeah, Billy, can you hear me? I had you muted.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I can hear you guys. How you doing?
Hey,
No
I'm
problem.
alive.
Spears too. Billy McBride. Billy McBride.
Yeah, any guys in here? trying to find true love.
Good luck. It helps if you're blindfolded.
I mean, I noticed that people don't really have that passion, like that wanderlust, that when it comes to like finding your true love, like that it's typically a person that they grow up in the same neighborhood as. It's
Well,
like that's
we could say that for another topic.
Yeah, but
Let's get back to the reputation thing.
reputation.
But yeah, that's the thing.
I think there's a problem though with talking about the reputation of and like the manosphere, because there's such a huge stigma already attached to it. So like how to properly study it would be a good place to start off. There's like you can take a sample size from any sector of the manosphere and kind of like get a different answer.
Right.
You
And
know?
the thing is, like, you have to find Yeah, first off, I encourage anybody who's Trump stumbled on this live stream, find a distinct. Find if you're of researching, find a distinguished group of people, or distinguished person, or distinguished group of people in the manosphere, and compare them to the rest of the manosphere. That's pretty much what it is. Is you're comparing them to the rest of the manosphere. Manospherians against manospherians at this point.
I guess, yeah. I guess rather than give a try to bring other examples from outside of it, which I can see how it can lead to shaming pretty easily, from being like, well, why isn't the top manosphere guy like the top, Silicon Valley guy, or the top Hollywood person, or the top New Yorker? Yeah.
Well, that just shows that it further emphasizes that what people think of you, as far as your reputation, is none of your business, really. You're being held to other people's standards and expectations.
Yeah.
So you might think,
yeah,
from now and again, oh, well, my reputation is in jeopardy or something like that, or I need to maintain my reputation or something.
If you, I'm gonna say something that Tico said once. I'm gonna say something that Tico said once. If you have to defend your reputation, you've already screwed up.
Yeah. Well, you screwed up in two ways, in a sense, because one, you shouldn't really be concerned about your reputation in a sort of roundabout kind of sense, because it's not really within your control. Your reputation is like a byproduct of how you've been behaving, and it's generated from other people's value system. Like, you can destroy someone could be an upstanding, they got dignity, they've got integrity, they're stoic, they're a morally adjusted type of person, but then you've got some arse twit come along and smear campaign and destroys your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not it will be withstanding will be a separate issue.
Yeah.
But if people are too lazy to think for themselves, and they'll just take someone else's opinion as their own, then in some ways, does their opinion of you really matter at the end of the day?
Right. The thing is, if they're taking somebody else's opinion of you and not their own opinion, then they're not the people that you were supposed to be around,
Exactly.
Because eventually they're going to come around. They're going to come back.
Yeah, if you're worried about somebody else's reputation, I think that also ruins the ability to have common sense and to have and to commune with one another. Because if we're worried about each other's reputation, we won't be honest. We won't be compassionate. We'll say, you can't talk about so and so because their reputation is too high, or or you be in fear of all the backlash that's going to come out down on you from talking about somebody because of their reputation. I think it's still have tact, but also it's not going to work if we're all just worried about what everyone else is thinking about us.
Hey, look,
you shouldn't really.
Sorry.
You shouldn't forsake your own self-respect for reputation. I mean, so reputation is basically like the appearance, the presentation. It doesn't really tell you necessarily what someone is truly like.
Yes, I've got to do a rapid fire on each topic because I gotta go. I got some things that I gotta do.
No, I actually, you told me that you had to jet early, so it's okay.
Guest early, guest over.
But you're going. I'm
gonna start a rapid fire just in case I'm not able to come back.
Go for it.
So
the rapid fires.
The reputation one, you could can start with that. Like, how would you
I'll be back. That's it.
you'll be back?
No, I won't be back for this conversation, but I'm just saying rapid fire them so that I can give my take on it, so that I can get on with things, you know?
Okay.
All right, starting with reputation. First off, I'm gonna start off with what Tico already said. If you got to defend your reputation, then you've already screwed up. What's the next topic?
It was people going missing in the manosphere.
I mean, a lot of people go missing. A lot of people go missing in the manosphere. Some people die. People end up with families. Some people end up in a psych ward. And
Billy mentioned like the appearances being the main part of reputation, and
right.
it's like there's people who don't show their face, and so there's varying levels of like reputation that they keep, or that they can like withhold, or they can uphold, because their appearance is not being taken into question. Whereas other manosphere people, they get someone's appearance and they judge them based off of that.
Right. And it's
that might cause people to like ride the fence with how committed they are, because they see a bunch of people who uphold the reputation, who don't show themselves, and then they feel like they've already been exposed as who they are, so they're like constantly in this game where like, do I commit to the manosphere or do I not?
the thing
Because there's
like
the risk that if you stay, someone's going to use you to either prove their point or to disprove, or to as an object.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Really shouldn't matter whose point is being proven, who's not being proven. Whether you show your face or not, it don't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not there's, I'm just proving a point. No, screw them. Let them be. Let them sit up here and prove their point. Eventually, they're gonna end up looking like a jackwagon. Look, it's 2022, not the 1950s. You know, you like I said, people are gonna try to use everybody else to prove a point. But yeah, I gotta go. So I mean, sorry I can't cut it short. Good timing from his rifle.
What's up, boys?
All right.
We got Rifle in the house. What's up?
Hey, Rifle.
What up, brothers?
All right, gents.
I gotta take it easy, man.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks about these streams is they come on, when it's dinner time and I'm hungry. But it's all good, man.
Dinner time. Everybody's always eating during this stream, but it's totally fine. Sometimes you got to bleed the whatever it is before you cure it and eat it.
So
the feeding edge.
Right, there you go. Yes, that's good. I like that.
Edge.
So what have I missed, gentlemen?
Well, Wynn gave us a rapid fire of the topics. We are just talking about reputation and appearances in the manosphere, and also how we use each other to sort of get stronger. But then sort of you also see the opposite effect where some people in the manosphere, which is often the sample size that the mainstream takes, they use the outside, i.e. like female TikTok and gym validation, work validation, to sort of prove their point and grow within the philosophy. Because like, as you gain experience, you do gain reputation, like inevitably.
Sure.
So it's not like you can avoid being visible or something, especially when you're on social media. But that's the first topic, and then kind of moving into the second topic, which we'll probably do naturally, is just how some people seem to like dodge the algorithm intentionally. And or go off the grid. They not off the grid, but they just like stop posting.
Yeah.
And then go dormant. But then they'll reawaken back again. And
that's pretty normal.
You know, and they're, I feel like they're innocent topics. You know, nobody's really in business to get like caught with their pants down or something. It was like, oh, so and so hasn't posted in a while. What are they doing? Just generally,
It
yeah.
happens. People get busy. Sometimes people, well, it's part of the red pill grief cycle that TFM came up with. They go into the wasteland. They've gotten what they needed from the red pill, and they just go off into the wasteland and live their lives. They don't have to, keep coming to streams or make videos or produce content or anything like that. Now, obviously, we appreciate all you guys that come here and comment and want to be part of the discussion, but we'd also understand if you went into the wasteland and disappeared. It would kind of suck because you're like, where's so and so? Where's Billy? Where'd Billy go? But
He got married.
I don't understand. I see that.
Yeah, would have to be betrothed. Too young. Yeah, I get it. It's like but then there's like that you're a betrayer, and oh, what did you lose from betraying an online group? You really just lost reputation within the manosphere. So the only time it ever affects people you see is when they're too deep into it, and they value other people's opinion in the manosphere too much.
Yeah, I agree. You're right, but I wouldn't see it as a betrayal per se. But it would be nice, like, rather than, let's say Billy wanted to leave, rather than Billy just go ghost, disappear one day, say a goodbye or something, man. Like,
yeah,
hey guys, I'm going to go. I've gotten what I needed, and it was good to know all you, that sort of the goodbye thing. And so everybody understands, okay, well, Billy's doing his thing, and he's gotten what he needed, and he's good.
Yeah, it's kind of like a moving on. We wish them well, and hope they have a good life, kind of thing.
Exactly.
But to sort of shame them and guilt them, like you betrayed us. Come on, that's like guilt tripping someone.
Well, how much can you physically gain, or not? How much can you realistically gain? And is that a part of? There's a lot of people who are like afflicted with guilt because they're like, I literally saw all these people's lives. I heard all these stories and a lot of tips, and maybe even somebody donated money to me. And what have I done? They look at their content and I feel like, again, they're comparing it to something, I guess, that's less like you really don't need to compare it to, but they might feel like they're estranged from the manosphere as a group. And so, like, saying goodbye might feel, but they might be like, what's going to happen if I open my mouth? It's kind of the same with like trolling people.
Well,
it's hard to be like, oh, like, it's hard to not be nonchalant, but also care about what people think at the same time.
I think there's a few different degrees of scenarios that could play out. It's one thing if someone says, look, farewell, thank you and everything, I'm not going to be back, so I'm going to the wasteland or whatever, I'm going to go live my life. Fine, that's one thing. We never hear from them again. All right. It'll be another thing if they say that sort of stuff, but then time goes by and they come back. So then it's like, hang on, I thought you said you were gone. So what are you doing back? You know what I mean? Was it a stunt what you did before then? Were you just doing it to sort of get attention, like be all dramatic, like I'm leaving everyone, I'm never going to return, and then it's like, hang on.
Well,
here again.
Personally, I've thought about it, leaving, mostly because it was going to be busy. And I'm not saying that might not happen. What I said was I'm going to take a break. And then the busyness didn't come because what I thought was going to happen got pushed back. It's still going to happen, but it got pushed back. So
yeah, the honesty and the transparency goes a long way. At least then we know it. You're not.
I wouldn't just disappear, and I understand, because if you just disappear, people are gonna be like, "What the fuck happened to them? Did they kill themselves?" Like, your people are gonna, you know.
Well, it's interesting that people just appear, but nobody asks questions about that. It's only when they leave is when the questions come up. Isn't that interesting? Kind of like it's not the philosophy or whatever it is that the category isn't necessarily something that, like, take another example outside the manosphere, like say video games, for example. It's not apparent that there should be like a tutorial on how to do something very, very nuanced and difficult and advanced and taxing, and but that's kind of mostly what you find about stuff is like a niche. Every category has a niche, and I think like one interesting aspect about the manosphere is just how it's such a it's like a mission to try to stay authentic. So then you kind of is it the social media that we see that's the constant updating and letting people know what's happening in your life and pushing a narrative, is that authentic, or is that more just like you see somebody like, wow, they're really skilled, they have like media training, or they how did they just how did they just fall upon a YouTube channel as a place to express themselves rather than like they're the CEO or something, or they just manage their own life or something. It's like how did they get onto YouTube? No one really asked that. And I guess that's why a lot of the new manosphere people are just trying to ask, what's your origin story? Where did you come from?
I think that's
And
important to ask too.
yeah. How does
With,
that all,
within reason, because like how people are, they're constantly wanting to. If they disagree with you, they want to dox you and harass you and stuff like that.
Tico stuff, for example, by itself, you would agree with if you're a black pillar, you would agree with what he's saying. But if he shares that he has things that the resentment in any one of these groups has or starts to build as soon as he starts to like share things about his life, and then he gets weird comments like, "You don't sound," or "You don't sound really MGTOW. You sound more like realistic." And then our stuff, like people get just criticism that people get for sharing parts of their lives. It's not like a one-to-one. It's not like a transaction. You can't really you don't know what to expect when you put into people's expectations, when you like submit your life to people's expectations. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about reputation because you have all these different value systems that people are like wrapped up in.
Well, one of the I don't know, it's like a side effect or something to consider, particularly if we've got newcomers or on the whole the general state of what the manosphere is. If I don't want to sound a bit too cheesy, but it's almost like a clinic or a refuge for potentially damaged men. A lot of the guys have come from traumatic backgrounds, for example. Maybe not so much with the new age MGTOWs or manosphere type people. So there is, like with reputation, there's a lot of reflective comparisons. So they'll look at, with a lack of sense of self, because they're still trying to find their own identity and who they are and all this sort of stuff. Often they'll look at other people to sort of calibrate themselves with. So if they see someone else who is exhibiting a certain set of characteristics, it almost instantaneously brings into question, well, who am I then in comparison to this person? So there's almost like although they're trying to, I don't want to say investigate, but although they're trying to get to know someone else and build a relationship and a bit of intimacy and familiarity and things like that,
I think
at
it's
the same parallel kind of way.
You get from that is just like somebody is very impatient and they can't. They're comparing themselves to somebody immediately, and they have so much positive affirmation in this feel good that they can't, like, in order to learn the most, you have to just retract everything that you can hold above another person in order to learn. Otherwise, that information will be, you won't value, it'll be a non-credible You'll be like, oh, okay, this person has nothing to offer me.
Yeah, well, that brings in a kind of, to some extent, like elements of like boundaries and sense forming, like the container for which you have your sense of self, and you want to be careful it's not being like a shared identity or a merger. And this is going back to what you're saying, where if someone was to leave and the rest are saying, hey, you betrayed us, you're leaving us, you're abandoning us, well, that's not really I mean, apart from just shaming and guilting the other person for leaving, but it's also a sign that, you know, the people doing the shaming are dependent on this person. Like, don't leave us because we need you. It's like, hang on, how much? Where do we draw the line, or where is the balance here of how? Like, doesn't this person leaving, for example, have their own life, the rights to their own life, or are they here in servitude to be your safety net or something like this?
Yeah, I get that. So, like, popular creator that, some of these young guys, I got someone in my comments on one of my videos right now doing this, but when someone becomes their hero, one of these personalities become like their personal hero, and they are dependent pretty much on that person, it becomes pretty damn toxic. And
yeah,
I feel like if that person disappeared, I mean, because when all I'm doing is exposing that person's fuckery, and they're very upset. But imagine if that person just disappeared without saying a word. It would probably devastate them.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also on the flip side. So what we're just describing are people like, I mean, being dependent in some ways might not be malicious. They might not, want to be doing harm, but it is kind of like a selfish orientated trait. But on the flip side, you also have, because people have come from traumatic backgrounds, there could be a high level of compassion there. So when someone does go AWOL or missing or leaves, there is a genuine, like, legitimate concern, anxiety, worry that, like, oh, are they going to be okay? Like, I hope so, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think most people would have that feeling or would react harshly or get stressed out about it if they had stronger boundaries. I feel like the grooming is a huge result of this whole reputation thing being such an important issue for people, because you notice people tend to drift into their own categories or niches, but it's only when people are still here and won't capitulate and won't submit. It sounds really sounds really drastic, but it's only when somebody stays kind of planted or stubborn in a way do you really see people start to like think about what they value. Most of what you see is people just like stick it in a microwave, or they just kind of see it. They post something and they see the numbers, they see the attention, and now they're like, it is us now. We are one entity, and kind of not really taking into account their own. I think, Billy, that's what you were trying to say, like taking into account their own needs, their own feelings, because now this group values what they put out over more. It's almost like it's almost like envy a little bit of the amount of passion that somebody else has about something that may not have taken a lot of effort. Because I've seen like rifle streams. Rifle stream takes a decent amount of effort to pull off without it going to crap. There's a lot of them that are out there. So, but like it's more or less like the uploads, the short videos, and just the community, aspects of it. Like you can see that there's a lot of pandering that happens generally, especially with that's what Win was mentioning before you got in. He was talking about the 1950s propaganda. I think that is like a lot of people using that. Which I think that he's, I think that he's right, but I also think that there's another side to it. Obviously, there's the more liberal side, but I don't know how big or or how much of a threat it is compared to the what Lynn said, the 1950s, like reputation, my honor of my, it's like they lay it on pretty thick, which is why he gets upset by it.
Right. I think those are the kind of things it's good to have awareness of, so that then you can be a bit cautious around them, because it's like a bit like a landmine in a way. You run into the risk of danger that this is how you're going to build your self-esteem, or this is the process in validating yourself, which maybe it might have to be kind of thing for some people in their cases, but it shouldn't really be a healthy way of building your self-esteem, because it should really come internally rather than, I mean, yes, you want to you look outwards to see so that you can calibrate yourself with other people to see what's acceptable and what's not, etc. But to prioritize like the superficial or how other people perceive you in as a definition is already putting yourself in a secondary or in a last consideration position. So you're already kind of turning your back on yourself if your attention is looking outwards for your external validation.
And that's been a huge maxim in the red pill is, self-validation, and the focus on, internal, being okay with yourself internally instead of looking for validation from the outside. And that's not just from women, that's from dudes. That's from like don't get me wrong, guys who are watching this. I enjoy, your company. I enjoy your comments and stuff like that. But, I don't need you to your validation. It's not an insult, but I don't need your validation to feel good about myself. I hope that makes sense, and you don't take that as an insult or anything, because I like all you guys.
Yeah, but we can see how that can be a problem for a lot of people if they don't have like some self-esteem to begin with, because then they're looking back on an empty shell in a way, figuratively speaking. So if they're trying to build self-esteem, they're looking inward and there's nothing there, then they have no choice really, in a way, at least not in the beginning, but to look outwards. And this is how we enter life in general anyway. Like when we're born as babies, a baby has no sense of self. It builds its sense of self from looking outwards.
Yep.
And that goes on until until the age of sort of 25, and for some people it never even happens at all.
Yeah.
So it's not like an overnight thing where it's like, oh, suddenly now I have self-awareness.
Yeah, definitely not. But I think if you decide to become like a content creator, when you still have no sense of self, it's like be careful what you wish for, because that most people realize they can't handle tons of people's input about their life, but they do tend to gravitate to at least one or two, if not a small group. And it's about picking someone who shares the same cultural values, the same religious values. What TFM said, like ethnic boundaries are something that are stigmatized, but it's still like, if you share something with them, it's easy. Like I said, it's easier to relate, as opposed to being one of these people that decide to try to, because they're quote unquote MGTOW red pill woke, their first society, they want to try to integrate, or not even integrate. It's just like they're now being it's like you can tell they're trying to be all diplomatic and stuff and be well liked by multiple groups, kind of like putting all their eggs in one basket. Sort of.
You can't, and you can't make everyone happy. That's just the truth of the matter. There's always it doesn't matter how cool you are or whatever, there's always going to be someone who just doesn't like you, and it doesn't matter what you do or say, they just don't like you, and you can't change that.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's what you were talking about before, Infamous, when it comes to men on men. Like if you a conflict, if you zoom out whatever gender you are, you zoom out, it's really just competition with the same sex. But like most people, MGTOW, their content is like very experiential, so it's like it makes sense for them to be cautious about who they get into a relationship with. But also at the same time, they have to realize that men in the manosphere are they watch in order to build themselves. It's not to build you, the content creator.
Right.
And it's almost certainly that is never.
They're feeding off of what you're putting out there. And
Yeah.
Sometimes if they're a good, viewer or whatever, they'll say something to you that you can also learn from and feed off of. And it's an exchange. But some people are just shadow watchers. Some people, watch our streams, or they'll watch after we're done streaming, and they'll never comment or say a word. You won't even know they're there, but they watched. So I prefer to have the exchange, because sometimes there's always someone I can learn from that knows something that I don't, and vice versa. So I prefer the exchange, but I'm not going to hate if you're a shadow watcher either. So by all means.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not going to try to shoot a target that it doesn't exist, or that is like in the shadows or whatever. But for those of us that like are in the limelight, fair so to speak, like you are in any sort of have any sort of exposure, you kind of have to take. It's almost sort of like a mantle of like responsibility, that not only are you going to basically, not only are you going to hardly make any impact if you're lucky, you also might be kind of like targeted and used as as a fool.
That's why I think it's important to be dedicated to the truth.
Exactly.
If not,
the way that it can
if
really.
not, you will be clowned, possibly exposed. You might end up being someone's proverbial whipping boy and just get destroyed almost all the time.
There is a kind of especially once a duration of time has passed, like a revelation of character starts to emerge, whether this person is someone who's like thick-skinned or whether they're more of like a snowflake and have ulterior motives as to why, or ulterior motivations as to why they're creating content. Is it really to be producing content for the benefit of others, or are they doing it more for some other kind of I don't want to say like covert, but sort of under the radar type of, I don't know, like they're doing maybe they
sometimes it's just their ego. That's what I'm having. I hate to interject again, but I'm having an argument right now with a guy in my comments, and he's talking about grifting. I'm all about exposing grifters, and he thinks that grifting is purely monetary, which isn't true. You can grift for attention. You can grift, and part of that attention is building your ego, right?
Yeah,
this is like the narcissistic thing.
Where
and that, I think the reason why people miss that is because that's pure self-development. Like if you look at it in a vacuum, they're like, oh, it's on viewers to take their attention into their own hands. No, in reality, that's what it is. No one really. You shouldn't really care if you're being distracted to somebody else, because really they have to be responsible for what they like, the kind of information that they take in. That's what the manosphere has warned against in the past too. Like, be careful who you devote not just your money to, but also your attention to as well.
Yeah, and your lots of things, not just attention. I mean, like emotional energy and just your presence, maybe your time. Because you're not going to.
Wise.
Time is probably one of the most valuable assets. One of the sort of red flags you can watch out for is how much of a controlling aspect a certain channel or certain person has. Like, if things aren't going their way, how bent out of shape are they getting? You know what I mean? Then you realize, hang on, there's something more. There's some sort of like a higher stakes are higher values are at stake here with this person. Something is in jeopardy. Like why do they need my it's almost like cult behavior. Like why did it subconscious
Deserters is what's beautiful about this group is that no one really decides when to leave until they've been like blackmailed by some outside clandestine group into leaving MGTOW. Most of the times it's a woman that gets them to leave. Like a lot hear them, or a guy, or it's just like an interpersonal relationship that they were now get the attention that they were getting from their videos. Now that's what leads to the group no longer mattering. It's not like they find an old group. A lot of times it's they wasteland it, and then they come back and say they're probably going to be fine, or they went and they found they got their attention from somewhere else, and so all the attention givers are the ones that are concerned. It's not people who are looking to invest in themselves that get upset when somebody goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what you were describing there a little bit was a sort of push-pull dynamic where, like at first when they're blowing up or getting noticed or building their notoriety, that's the sort of pull. They're pulling people into their world or whatever. But then as soon as I don't know, something they get doxxed or something distasteful emerges about them, like a hit piece or something, now they push away. But then you mentioned about how they might go to a different community, and that also is another kind of revealing type of behavior where I call it like fishing in ponds. So they're busy fishing in one little pond, and if they're not getting their fish, or the bait's not working or whatever,
there are people that are just empty like that, where they can go, they'd be red pill, but then all of a sudden, like, who's the guy that everyone's talking about now? The bald dude, like the bald player guy, Taylor or something. But like he's one of those people that have exploded, like Kevin Samuel, and now everyone's like doing the sad truth about this dude, or the dark reality.
The sad truth.
Yeah,
I have no
this
idea
guy
what you're talking about, man.
I don't know who you're talking about either. But and yet again, another kind of phenomenon that we see where, especially in today's modern times, where as soon as someone gets kind of noticed, it's like, right, let's find the dirt on this person, and kind of like shit test them in a way, see what their muster is about, and whether or not it's true or not, and whether or not they're gonna be resilient enough, or can we discredit them? Now, for what reasons would that be taken? Like, are they doing it because they want to vet or filter out the con artist amongst the group, or are they doing it because the person who's doing the exposing somehow gets a kind of gratification from doing that? Like, haha, I caught you, I got you, my gotcha moment, and that makes me better than you because I caught you out.
Well, that's where it becomes ego. Like, yeah, and you got to be careful. Sometimes, your intent is good, and then it becomes about egos, and the ego. I need to do a video on this, but the ego boys will get you in trouble. Will get you in bad trouble if you allow it to run your life.
Yeah, I think there's entanglements in the manosphere for sure. There's a lot of different. Oh crap! I've been compromised, because it's like, well, to kind of push to at that point, I would say though that it's just a natural thing of joining a group. Somebody who's new comes in, and there is kind of like naturally just that. Is that still to do with ego, or is it?
We do have an element of because of the injuries men have sustained over the years and everything, and coming together in this sphere or community, there is an element of poor trusting skills. Like, we don't, like, a lot of people don't trust women, for example.
That is true. Yeah.
So if not controlled or addressed or acknowledged or something like this could lead into like paranoia. Now all of a sudden, you can't trust society, you can't trust the elites, you can't trust your friends, you can't trust your family, you can't even trust the men in the group. Well, who can you trust? You can't trust anyone but yourself. Well, how reliable are you? And the thing is, like, at the core, they probably don't even trust themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
kind
this
of like
causes
when Deno used to say, "Be be discerning." I guess to me
yes, but
that kind of like perfectly sums up the problem with trust. Is that it's not to not trust. It's just that you need to. It's almost like people play one level and they give up because they know what the future is
The
going to
rest of
be.
the game is too hard.
I think like trust.
Well,
Good thing
there's
is
also
learning.
the idea of save scumming, which is to attempt something, then reload from a previous save in order to not almost you're trusting this situation that it's going to work out, that like you can try something different if
Well,
the
that's
parameters
basically trial and error without consequences. Then
without consequences for sure, yeah, no,
for
that's
failure, yeah.
delusional, yeah, but there is necessarily, I guess, to not give somebody who's untrusting an out. You always can try again to try to and hope that you're discerning enough to trust again. But I guess there are people who are just numb to any
The
potential to learn.
the issue with trust, because so discerning and trust are very closely, like they kind of like walk side by side. I would say that discerning takes a bit more time. It's a bit more thought processing because you're having to like weigh up evidence or weigh up thoughts and things like that. So it's a bit more effort, takes a bit more time. Whereas trust, you can be quite short-cutted about. You could be like, look, I just don't trust this guy. What reason? I don't have any reason. I just don't trust them. So it could be a bit quick-paced or unfounded, for example. But the thing with trust is also the neighbor of vulnerability. So if you've got people who have been in vulnerable positions, they've been exploited, they've been abused, they've been taken advantage of, etc. So it's understandable why they might have trust issues, and they have a fear of being vulnerable again. So to have a sense of security or comfort, they can. I'm not saying it happens in every situation, but it can easily sort of happen where they start having a policy or the mantra of like, well, for my safety's sake, I'm better off just automatically not trusting people or going on the attack and being aggressive. And quite often they might actually provoke conflict just in order to prove themselves right. Be like, right, I knew I couldn't trust you because look, we're now fighting, even though they're the one that started the fight.
Self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
Then you see the amount of time that's been wasted on. It's no longer discerning. It's moved from one person to another because of lack of boundaries. To now it's now it's the other person's what the other person is like thinking about them that holds precedence over their own, like being a steward of their emotions almost.
I mean,
take care of yourself, but you get so wrapped up in taking care of yourself that now you're worried about what how to navigate. And I think there's a part of that that's also a little bit sidetracked too, because I mean on one hand, you've been taken advantage of, but on the other hand, how I keep bringing up maybe reputation and all these other topics in the previous videos because it's really, to me, it doesn't seem like you will never have a chance to, I guess, build your reputation back. With the content, you see a lot of people who have that focus on the legal systems and the ramifications that you can get to where you're not able to do certain things potentially ever. But the fact that there's that still is like that kind of, I guess, supersedes the whole like abundance mindset and like what I said, like the no validation, don't take the self-validation, self-preservation, like basically all that stuff goes out the window when you start talking about once you start hearing from the perspective of people that have gone through it. Is that just more a reality check for people who are idealists, or is it still like, is it still possible to uphold a philosophy with a bunch of like damaged people like coming in and sharing their side of the story? Like
a lot of it really is it might be in the category of projection, but it kind of says more about the other person than it does. Let's say you have a good reputation, you messed up, now your so-called reputation has been tarnished, and you're wondering, can you be back to where you once were? In some ways, it's like it's yes, you can. In fact, you can bounce back even better because you've made this mistake, and you hopefully you would have learned from it and acknowledge it, and you take it on board and you're honest about it, kind of thing. So whether or not, so in that sense, yes, but whether or not the rest of the world will appreciate this this hurdle or this obstacle that you've been through is another thing. And if they don't, then what is that saying about the people who are judging you? It says things like that they're a bit more idealist. They don't like the idea of having faults. They don't like the idea of people being human. So really what it's saying about the ones who are judging is they are probably quite highly self-criticizing.
Mm-hmm.
So really, so if I was to build a rapport with someone, who would I rather build a rapport with? I would actually choose, in this example, the person who actually effed up, because at least they were honest and humble.
And admitted that they screwed up. Yeah.
Rather than someone who has this ultra tight, self-criticizing, but probably a biased view, an idealized view, so a warped perception of how things should be. This is someone who is wanting to see the world in like rose-tinted glasses.
Mm-hmm.
This is someone in fantasy land. And if you don't conform to that, they'll scrutinize you as well. So.
Well, I'm glad you are on that part of the topic. Let's talk about how to protect your reputation then, since we're on the topic of reputation, ways to protect it.
I think honesty is a good virtue to have.
That is like the primary. I was going to say that's the primary one right there, is just being honest about things. Now, I would add a couple of things, but let's see what Yam has to say. You got anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just I'm just listening. Sorry, I'm just listening. But yeah, the honesty portion of it is more or less like getting back to now you have to divorce yourself from the outcome, basically, right? It's like you have like maybe your streams are more topical, so maybe getting into the honest considerations about your life not as important really as it is as staying on topic. But then I think it's you have to think about like what is everybody doing it? What is everybody doing this for? Like how much planning does that actually has to go into just being honest? If it's as hard as it is if it's as hard as people say that it is, then maybe is making YouTube content as people experience it, they're like, it's so difficult to just tell the truth. That is it really?
Jesus.
That's what you notice. You notice like most content is like, here's what I do to prevent myself from telling the truth, and then all you see is other people saying, yes, that perfect. That's so masculine and money, and like that becomes what was what everybody's impression of masculinity is. That's like it's so hard to actually pursue positive masculinity that there's no wonder people go off the grid and just leave because
it can be toxic. Yeah.
But I guess like Billy always says that the victim is always the narcissist is always the original victim.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And when I think about that, I think like the smaller I think that this becomes to you, the more it becomes like a learning experience. Whereas like it's catastrophic if you have nowhere else to turn to, and if you only think about this as being the only, like, the solution, the primary solution. If the problem's so large it needs this community to face, then that's something that where it's just like, okay, therapy's not going to work, voting's not going to work, studying something in depth is not going to work.
So something that could happen is when they jettison themselves from the community, what they might be trying to do is get away from themselves. So they've got a channel, they've had some time, to be known. People get to know them maybe in some ways better than they know themselves. And then it becomes apparent to this channel creator that, oh crap, people can see right through me, and it's a bit I'm uncomfortable with it, I don't like it. So in some ways, yes, they might have built a channel to create a sense of identity or to build a sense of self-esteem, etc.
They got it. They got. I mean,
they get it, but they don't like it. So then they think, I'm gonna bail. So they think they're getting away from their problems, but what they're ultimately doing is getting away from who they really are.
Well, also they run away. I would argue they run away for a period of time because they know that some people, a lot of people, have a very short attention span, and all they got to do is be gone for a while and then come back, and it'll be, some people will remember that this guy is a dirtbag, but a lot of people will have forgotten about it.
Yeah, you get that. Yeah, you get that.
I've observed this.
Like, it is, they leave for a time, and then things, but when it comes to distinguished companies such as you gents, it's like whenever Cypher comes back, there's always something drama that he can sink his teeth into, and vice versa for anybody in the panels. Like, as soon as they come back, there's all this stuff happening, and like, okay, this guy got exposed, this person was,
never ending content on that, dude. Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like, when they come back, do they say things like, but that was in the past, let bygones be bygones? So then it's sort of, hey, hang on, you're trying to sweep it under the rug. Yeah. So it depends. You play it in many ways.
Yeah, gloss over it. Yeah, I mean,
basically.
Yeah, for sure. That is so true though about the people's identity is found when people can see right through them. That's called being transparent.
Yeah, I mean, that's when they kind of turn around and do those sort of.
That's the negative side of transparency, though, is what you're talking about. Sometimes it's positive as well.
Maybe I'm just like sadistic because I just think it's always positive. That's not me being critical, overly self-critical, but it's to me, it's just like
positive. But which direction are you thinking from? Like a consumer, like someone who watches the content? Like, of course, like you would want to know, you would want the person that you're watching to be transparent because they're authentic.
But I mean, transparency, if not careful, will remove your boundaries because you're removing that barrier, and so you're letting people cross boundaries that maybe they shouldn't be crossing. So you can have boundaries and transparency, but if you're not careful, it can be pushed aside. Boundaries can be pushed aside in order to be transparent, which is problematic.
That may be, and that's why I always when Pico says, like, we'll say something like, don't appease certain people, don't like try to please them. It's kind of like I listen to it, but sometimes it goes in one ear out the other. What am I going to do? I'm gonna make those kinds of mistakes. Just because that's just the kind of person that I am. And it's basically about trying to mitigate it. But honestly, that I think more people need to have that sort of mentality of a trial and error, because it's never going to get better if you never try anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I just think being honest, barring being too trusting of other people, but being honest is a good way to, I guess, to
Yeah.
start on the path of
And
learning.
something that goes in with quite a few of what you just said there, where it's like trial and error, honesty, and the other one you mentioned will be an element of being brave, having bravery, because cowards aren't going to be honest. Cowards aren't going to try and error. Cowards aren't going to really learn from mistakes. And it goes back to that kind of because of the fear of vulnerability. Now you're not going to have.
That's where people leaving as is a double-edged sword, because if people are leaving and they're just sitting there, kind of contemplating the ramifications of it, like what they've done, what they're currently doing, not pursuing the YouTube content, and what the future. To me, that almost seems like healthy, but most people would say that that's quote unquote living in fear. You know, just post what it is you're doing today to keep the real time integrity, which will save more people than, it's like a utilitarian philosophy. You know, it's like do sacrifice your own boundaries for the greater good.
Bravery is not about an absence of fear.
Yeah, it's about
having no fear is actually dangerous. You do want to have fear, but the real question or issue is how you manage that fear, what you do about it. Do you control it, or do you let the fear control you, kind of thing? So if you're going to be honest or open or transparent, if you're going to have relationships, intimacy, if you're going to do whatever kind of ventures in life, if you're going to be willing to make mistakes and all this, you need to be brave. But in order to be brave, you're going to need to be able to trust within yourself, that you can reassure yourself, like, look, we might be scared, or we might be fearful, we might be worried about our survival, but it's okay. We got us. You know, we got resilience, or whatever it is.
Courage there.
Courage. Yes.
Yeah, like trusting other people is pretty much useless if you're just motivated by fear, because you're like, oh, okay, I trust that they'll protect me. But most people don't have the time or the patience to protect somebody else that way, especially not if you market to them, take care of yourself first and have promote yourself. You know, it's like it's not mutually. Well, just like a lot of people are in these unions where you kind of like shake your head or frown or be like, that looks, I could tell that's lasted longer than I thought it was going to last. And it's not really necessarily judging, because I don't have any stake in it. It's that person got themselves into that situation with those people or person. But you look at it like, why would you submit yourself to that? It seems very toxic, or it seems like it doesn't seem like you enjoy doing it, so why would you continue to do it? So it's just, I don't know, I think that's just groupthink and getting like in too deep, what I noticed.
A lot of it has knock-on effects. So I mean, it's kind of like a vicious spiral or a vicious circle. So there isn't any like beginning point or necessarily like an end point. It's just, if you're on that kind of path, you got a lot of problems, and they'll start to bleed out into other areas and cause other problems. So it can become quite catastrophic, and especially like as we progress over time, you see the damage that's been incurred. At first, there might be like a bit of tolerance to it, or you might get a few knocks, and it doesn't make too bad of a difference. But again, it left unchecked without any maintenance or self-care or attention or any of that. I mean, what happens when things aren't looked after? They slowly start to decay or break down until in the end, like if it's a vehicle, if you're talking about a car, for example, you never bother to fix the thing. Yeah, you might drive it for a while. It might be a bit clunky, but eventually that car's going to become a write-off. And then at that point, you might turn and be like, oh, I need to do something about this. And it's like, no, it's too late. The cost of repair is just way too much. Scrap it. But obviously, people, if we're dealing with people's lives here, well, that maybe they might start thinking about scrapping their life. Sadly.
Yeah, well, it's just you can't. You have to build. Even if your life is like say 75% screwed up, you can work 1%. You can maybe work 1% today.
Yeah, exactly. You're so on point, and this is what I keep trying to tell like the black pill guys. I mean, exactly what you just said. They think it's over and it's time to give up, and then you tell them exactly what you said, that don't give up, keep working at it one day at a time, and they actually get mad at you. They get mad at you for telling them that.
Yeah, like with the people that have come across and you tried to do that to them, they can't stop going to a certain stream that makes them feel terrible, or they can't really take care of themselves, and that's where you get discouraged, and then and then you're like on the bleeding edge talking about it, and you can tell the demeanor of people that come here. It's like they've not only have they gone through a community and done the whole let's socialize, like the thing that everybody, just like the things that they've just been accountable, and you don't just pop into the manosphere out of the blue. Like what Billy said, we kind of all go through a vicious cycle of this seems interesting, or this seems like intriguing, let me try to stick my nose into this. Oh god, it's or disgusting and deviant, realized.
I mean, this is part of it. If people are so used to like the instant gratification where they think they can miraculously just turn their life around and make it somehow, because a lot of the time I feel like people, they say, all right, you said 70% of their life is screwed. They're hoping to somehow get that down to maybe 2%. And it's like, come on, you can get by with maybe 40%, 50, even 65% will make a huge difference. So that small margin of 5% there,
is case as long as people consider that manosphere is like a character creator, like they can just revamp their whole into being. It's like
create a new character, new reputation.
And that's that's harboring on the sort of that's tapping into their narcissism, where they have this expectation, entitlement, expectation, instant gratification, that suddenly now they're going to have the best life.
They don't want consequences. Like that goes right back to what Yam was talking about earlier, where they can just save, try something,
right,
fail, and go back, do it again.
Yeah, like great reset. Like so if what happened before doesn't matter, like you can forget it ever happened, then you're going to repeat the same mistakes because nothing was learned from it. You're taking it for granted. It's like, no worries, no biggie. I don't have to put any effort into the rest of my life because I can just rely on the save point. So why should I even bother? I can just basically goof around in life. Maybe I'll hit lucky one day. But so there's no actual like investment or consideration or I mean, the consequence is kind of like the after effect, but a consideration of the consequences, what could happen. So this is sort of like a more considerate mind, a mature mind that weighs up the pros and cons and thinks outside the box. And another spanner in the works I'll throw in quickly before I forget is when people become like they're vulnerable, they're fearful, they're survivalistic, they're conflict seeking and things like this. They're making rash decisions. They're also impulsive because of the here and now, because of the inability to think ahead. And that's why instant gratification fits in there, because you can't you have no patience for the long-term goal. These types of people don't want to slug it out and build from the ground up. They kind of want it. They want life given to them on a platter. And when you've got that sort of character, that list of traits in their character, then in some ways it's kind of understandable why they might not trust themselves, because if they're making rash decisions and they're making mistakes in their life, then they'll sort of internalize that. It's like, well, even
a
if
lot of people have the ability
trust,
they don't have the ability to admit when they're like that, and that's the time when they're the most vulnerable. But most people you see now, they're very macho, and they try to say that we're the supreme philosophy of the world, but they also don't admit that they also have to they have to rely on somebody else. Like, you have to, at some point and then when somebody tries to have an intervention, you could see it's catastrophic, because there's no inner self to really hear that somebody trying to care for them. It's really all they see is like, oh, you guys are all evil, and
yeah,
I can't trust any of you. I need to retreat into this. I need to retreat even deeper into my self.
I had to tell someone recently, not everyone in the world is out to get you. And it's pretty much common sense, but some people need to hear that.
Some people want to believe it, though, because
that's true.
It's easy once you've got this malfunction of problem solving going on, or this malfunction in maturing, because also not only is it impulsive and all the rest of that kind of stuff, but it's also infantile. It's a childish way of looking at things, this is our children. This is why a lot of people might say you've got children in adult bodies. What was I going to say about that? So it's also childish. They quickly slip into the victimhood. It's like the ace up the sleeve. When all else fails,
every time
I'll be a victim. So, like you're saying, Rifle, they might want to see the world as everyone's out to get me, and it's also, that shows you the level of self-importance, because it's like, I'm a victim, but I must be someone so special and great because everyone is out to get me. So it's like, but if you're a nobody, why would anyone? So you have to be. You see how this duality going on there. They are the master, as well as, well, they are the ambition of many, or whatever. They are high in status or something. Then there must be some sort of reason to be targeted by the entire world, but at the same time they're a victim. And so they start to not only delve into the victimhood mentality with this duality of superiority, but they also learn helplessness. So even if you did give them life on a platter, here, I've done the hard work for you, here's a solution, they probably won't take it.
Like Social Security. Like, I've worked, and you're benefiting off of my labor, and then they still want to complain and be like, oh God, all these people out here to get me. It's like, you literally are eating off of the backs of somebody else.
You guys got a job center style thing where you are,
like an employment
office.
We
call it a job center here. I mean, there's plenty of people that go to the job center, and what do they complain about? Oh, there's no jobs. It's like, hang on, there are jobs, but you're
there's jobs they don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the truth about it.
And why would they turn away solutions that are brought to them? Because if they have to take these solutions, now they got to be responsible for their life. And this is what this is really what one of the reasons why they're deflecting from it. It's
because if they can't go at 75% messed up today and try to make sense of their life, then why even bother? Like, they want to be able to make a significant impact once they're at 2% screwed up life. So it's like it's something that's so far in the future for them, it doesn't seem like relevant to even contend with. But if you're not afraid of hard work, then you can start at 75% screwed up, whatever it is that you consider it, whether it be an entry level job somewhere.
And you'd also be satisfied with whatever, like if it was a job you're entering, with a low pay salary. You'd be like, it doesn't matter what the salary is. I just need to be working. I just need to get the ball rolling.
Definitely get the ball rolling. Yeah, but it's like that's why the laziness doesn't make sense to me. I'm not trying to be like say that I don't no one deserves to be lazy. It's like if it's a problem of momentum, then not doing anything is actually counterintuitive. It's actually worse than just trying to at least a little bit.
It's self-harm, and it's childlike. It's arrogant. It's petulant. It's spoiled type of behavior. It's like, oh no, I ain't gonna flip burgers at McDonald's. It's like, yeah, but you haven't been working for like 20 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm. No offense, yeah, but I mean that's what I'm having trouble with when it comes to the young people, Zoomers, I guess, and young millennials have this problem big time, where they think once they walk in the door, they should basically be the CEO of the company. You know, it's like, what have you done to earn this? And some Zoomers have almost the opposite problem, where they're like, you give them some work. I wish I could. I'll have to tell you guys offline or something when the stream is over. But you try to give the kid some work, and he's like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. It's like, and a simple task. So that makes sense. He was given a simple task, and he's just like, I don't know what to do. It's like, really? I'll tell you guys offline to make it make more sense.
I guess because I've started many jobs. You know, people are gonna be like, oh my god, yeah, he's an impotent. But I've started at many jobs, and if you're starting at a job, you would want to just ask as many questions as possible.
Yes,
but to me, that seems like
ask questions though, or
holding some certain people back. I guess, yeah. Is this like they're just not willing to ask how to do it better? They would rather just say,
almost like he's this kid in particular. He's almost afraid to ask. Like we're pretty easygoing. We're like, just, do you have any questions? Ask us. We'll help you. You know, we'll teach you what you need to know. And it's like he's afraid to ask, or just too lazy, or doesn't think to. And it's like, bro, come on, man. Like, but also a simple task is a simple task. It's not. I'm not asking someone to perform brain surgery or anything, open heart surgery. It's, looking at some documents. Won't be more specific. I'll be more specific later, but looking at some documents for information. That's how tough it was.
Yeah, and that's as far as it goes for me in terms of coaching somebody through. Like my main thing is it's hard to like get somebody to share things about themselves. It's going to make it easier for you to like manage them. Most of the time they like bring a bunch of like crazy, and it's mostly women, but they bring a bunch of like crazy excuses about why they can't.
Oh God.
Something.
Yeah.
And then now it's like about they just want to get approval from you up to about doing the job, as opposed to like asking, what could I do to be better? And like then I feel like it just spirals out of control. But
that would drive me up the wall too. Yeah, I hear that shit.
And it's kind of like you just say, okay, well, but and I where it's gonna have to get done by somebody. So
somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
I was talking to a friend last night who said pretty much that, like, I can tell you what their profession is. Their profession is that they're in the medical field, and he had this nurse that was working under him, and the nurse didn't like her assignment, so she went outside. Like, she was in the building, looked at her assignment on the board, then went outside to her car and called in sick, and then was wondering why the hell she got fired and was never allowed to work there again.
Yeah, it's a little bit playing the system. It's a little bit
Yeah, that's
the-
entitlement, is what that's called.
I
Like,
can
I don't like my assignment, so fuck you. I'm gonna call in sick. Like that's like government employees 101 right there. You know, and I used to be a government employee having to put up with these idiots.
well, yeah, that's the problem. Most of the time, you can just fire them, or it is what it is. But
A lot
with
of
the
times it's
government,
really hard to fire someone who's a government employee, by the way. A lot of times it's
exactly,
really hard.
it's totally manageable. But
They
the
have to do
government,
something really bad to lose their job.
yeah, it's like hell. I talk about my job with teachers. He's like, how does that person still have a job? I'm like, exactly, but you can't do anything. You can't do anything. Most, I mean, it's like that's where you start to empathize with like some of the MGTOW, because it's like our society is set up to just let people do this ad infinitum. That's like a fallacy or something, but no, but they set it up so that people can do that, so it's like what's the point of really complaining about it? It's just we could talk about it in order to try to like
Yeah.
get through to somebody like, hey, it's not always about dominating in in the place that where you are, because most of that stuff is set up to like when you get to a certain point, they're just all going to stab you in the back, or just be okay with be okay with who you are, and be able to get through things by your own power. Just use your own power to get to where you need to go. And in that sense, like that's sort of my introduction to the manosphere. We're kind of, and I guess we're kind of getting into the end of the show here, because I think the guys probably got to go digest their food and the talk. But you guys notice that there's a lot of stuff in the manosphere where it's like people just sort of devoting themselves to the anti-feminism rhetoric, but then like they sort of get themselves into a whole entire rabbit hole. Like I saw, like certain, like when it comes to how to address the like entitlement, like women talking about dating and stuff, you see a lot of different approaches to that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it.
Some approaches are like, yeah, some approaches are hilarious, but most oftentimes I think to myself like, how does this, like I'm almost enjoying looking at the TikTok, like the MGTOW TikToks, almost as a non-participant, and just being like, look at how crazy it is. Like I don't feel like I don't want any part of it. Maybe I've already done enough damage to where
Just enjoying the show, it sounds like.
that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Yeah, what's going on there?
But with that enjoyment comes like some guilt every now and again, because it's like you either want to participate or you want to criticize, and most oftentimes if I want to participate something, I kind of just like repress it a lot of the times. But
why do you avoid participating? I'm curious.
I mean, like, because I don't know. I think it is actually bad, because I just don't. I don't know how much I kind of overvalue the content that I made in the past. I think I really need to just like get over that, if I think that that's actually a problem. But it's really just I just want to like, I feel like I have already such a wide domain of topics to cover in my own head, that I feel like I should try to stay within my own domain and not really expand too much. But maybe that's like completely wrong. That's not the way to play the.
Well, no,
not the way to
there's
play.
stuff that you could do. What's your knowledge base of these other subjects? I mean, just curious.
Not really. Well, if I'm be honest, I feel like I would be criticizing dating and female nature and TikToks and stuff. I feel like I would be doing that with like some decent experience, but not anything. I'm my type of perspective is like just trying to be realistic.
Mhm.
It's not trying to give people motivation to do something crazy.
Right.
And so that's like I've been trying to figure out a place to insert myself with that.
Like you're looking for a niche of some sort.
Yeah,
or-
for sure. Yeah, in terms of
Okay.
with obviously. I mean, I look at my videos;
Well, if
they
you
don't
got,
perform well unless I get like very lucky. But I know that I could probably get a decent amount of views doing something else. So.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with expanding your horizons and talking about stuff that maybe you have some experience with, or if you don't have any experience, why not set up an interview with someone that does have experience in that thing, and that way you and your audience can learn together. That's sort of what I try to do. I have guests that come on that I don't know fuck all about what they're or very little about what they're talking about, and so I learn together with my audience. And I do, like, when it's just me, I stay within my own wheelhouse, if you will. So I understand the apprehension.
Oh, I see.
I don't like talking about shit that I don't know, right? Because then I'm misleading people or making them think I'm and I'm highly opposed to people when people pretend they're an expert in something and they don't, they're just talking out their ass. I hate that a lot, and I don't want to do that myself. So I stay within my wheelhouse, and if someone knows something that I think is interesting, I try to invite them to the show. Now, some people, I will say, if your channel's not within a certain size, they might deny you because they're wanting to be on a channel that has a lot of people on it. So, don't be offended if someone does that, but try to find someone. Some people might be willing to, if you have a stream that has like one viewer on it, they might still come on just to have the conversation. So that's what I say. Reach out, network.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't try enough with as many different people as I should. I try to just get the certain people that I know I can count on, rather than like trying to reach out. Maybe there is somebody out there that has something to add to me, and maybe I probably am not looking forward to it because it might shatter my what I think about like reality, what's out
Well, you
there.
don't have to necessarily agree with like that person that you have on.
Yeah, no, because I noticed that whenever you have guests, you kind of sometimes they get, especially if they know people are watching, they kind of like they do take that opportunity to be like, oh, you guys should be doing this and this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. Blah. And I appreciate just like low stakes conversations where people want to
Right.
really
Yeah. You don't have to argue with them. I like I said, I have had people in the past whose philosophy I don't agree with almost at all, but I let them say their piece. And
I can do that. That's what I'm saying. I can do that with people that completely disagree with me, but with people that like have slight little things, I feel like it gets harder the more similar someone is to you, because
that's the thing. Ego. You have to keep ego in check, because just remember, not everyone is going to agree with you, and they don't have to agree with you. As long as you're secure with yourself.
Exactly. But yeah, you guys definitely have stayed a long time, and I appreciate you for staying on the panel.
It's been good. I wish I could have gotten in here early, but I was hungry.
Hey, sometimes you gotta eat. Sometimes, only sometimes.
Only sometimes, just enough to sustain
We
myself.
should we should do. Okay, I'm gonna figure out which video is like the 50th video, or maybe we could just say next week we all do like a mukbang, so we just eating during the bleeding edge. Well, that's how I bond. That's how you bond with people in college, or if you go to a club or organization, they serve you food. We'll have to keep that idea in our heads for next time, maybe.
Well,
and maybe do a topic on communal feasting and something.
Well, that's a good topic. I mean, it is. Why do you think people respond positively to you when you give them food? That's been around in regards to humans for a long, long time, because to give someone food is something that gives you sustenance. And to give someone food is, it might sound weird, but to give someone food is like an expression of like care.
Yeah. There is this well put. I'm gonna have to paraphrase.
I feel like most places you go, you ask for food and they give you like alms and pacification. And they're just like, you're like, oh, can I have food? And they're like, yes, build this church for me.
Oh yeah, so that's an exchange. I'm not talking about food that you pay for. I'm talking about someone that gives you food.
Yeah, gives it's a cultural thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you go to your grandma's house, and your grandma, like, I know this is how it is for me. Every time I go to one of my grandma's houses, they're trying to feed me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have to. They gotta stuff your face. Yeah,
they don't. Yeah, pretty much.
You get it.
Food boy.
I'm going to. I'm gonna fade in this awesome music that we've all come to love.
Let's do it.
And then we're gonna shout out people. Shout out Shinobi One. Shout out all my peoples in the comment section. Thanks for showing up. Billy the Goat, thank you so much for stopping by. Infamous Rifle, thank you for showing up.
Sir. Thank you for having me.
Always welcome, everybody. Cypher is always welcome, everybody. Psyche Soap, send an invite. You're always welcome. Red Pill Daniels, RPD. So, Slippery, thank you for stopping by as well. JR, Jim McIntosh. Spider, I miss you, man. I haven't seen you in a long time, Spider. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for showing up. How does my audio sound talking over this, by the way? Is it coherent? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the new outro music here.
Yeah, the good old StreamYard default. That's what I love.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Are you paying for StreamYard? Is that why you can do this?
This is when you pay for StreamYard, you get a little bit of that StreamYard cheese. But this you can do for free. You can do that. You can upload these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You can. I'm not going to do those other ones. They're too trolly. Yeah. Oh, who else popped in before we leave? Maybe there's somebody new. Oh no. Yeah, Shinobi. Shinobi is always invited.
Hey, Shinobi.
And my audio always makes me sound.
Man.
Yeah, Shinobi knows this stuff. I was just saw he's talking about the Bible and the Discord. There's so many like devoted people in the Discords and everything. All right, I'm trying to end this. Sorry, I'm trying to find the button. Oh, here we go.
It's okay, man. It's a learning experience.
All right, thank you guys for showing up. You're the best.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana, Coke boys, ooh, we run the city, homie tryna keep up, ooh, they going broke, I'll finish your career, ooh, get a rope,
Warning, 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 warning.
Dope money, ooh,
That Montega.
in the spot, getting guap, ooh,
That's hard labor.
in the club, popping bottles,
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
Handful of real niggas.
Rest of these niggas cowards.
How you want it?
How you want it?
Hands gun or the neck.
Soon as your man see the barrel,
He gon' run for his life.
bullets flying.
Bullets flying.